Hello and welcome to Midweek Live, the Hangout. Tonight I have Ronnie Renton from Mantic Games. Ronnie and myself are going to be talking about Kings of War. Hello, Ronnie. How are you, mate?
Very well, sir. Very well. Good to see you again, Warren.
So, Ronnie, Kings of War. It's been around for a while now. It's it's in the process of going through another major push. Okay, that push is kicking off with at the moment with the abyssals. There's an upgrade to the kind of the abyssal arm that is looking absolutely awesome. I'm really loving the kind of mischievous demon look that is going on there. What can you tell us about Kings of War, Ronnie? What's the plans?
Well, the big thing is it was our first game, and I think we launched it with Beasts of War when we did the very first beta test, probably back in 2010 or something, frighteningly long time ago. But ever since then, it's been the community's game, if you like, really. It's bubbled along in the background. It's very, very popular. I think a lot of people that play Warhammer say play it as well. It's not an either or. I think for a long time it's been an as well as, because it's just quite a different gaming experience. It's geared up to big armies, which aren't easy to get into and what have you. It's quite accommodating to whatever army you've got, historical players and what have you. Having played a number of tournaments, it has 20-odd players playing at Adepticon now, and we have tournaments around the world going on. It was clear the tournament players had worked it out, and they were min-maxing their armies. There was a few, the range was starting to get a bit unwieldy. The Basileans had their own book. The Abyssal, another army had another list in somewhere else. And so the community wanted us to put it all together, improve it, polish it, balance some of the forces, and bring a second edition out. We call it, second and fifth. Fifth if you include each of the free betas that we gave away. But we've printed one book in 2012. And it's an update to that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are the kind of core things that people will have noticed have changed in second edition? Now, there's nothing catastrophic has changed, but Justin, for example, has just been through an entire filming session looking at some of the aspects of Kings of War, and he says it feels a lot tighter and a lot smoother. But what for any Kings of War player out there, or for somebody that's wanting to get into Kings of War and do the mass battle fantasy stuff, can you sum up what second edition's kind of like?
I think the big things were, you saw the development in the early stages. When we put it out to the world with the first edition, it was a game for big battles, for big armies, and you can put hundreds of figures on the gaming table and you will have finished in 2 hours. I think we once played a 40,000 point game and it was done in 4 hours. Mm-hmm. What's happening with the tournament play is the army was getting large infantry and 10-man troops. And that was it. There was no mid-rank units. There was no hordes. You were taking golems and troop and artillery. They'd found out that if you min-maxed on those things, you were starting to be able to field a very competitive army. And sometimes it was angels, whatever. That was never really the vision for the game. Yes, balanced. Yes, min and max your army to make it tough. But we wanted it built around units, regiments, troops. Mm-hmm. Not hero hammer, not massive like blocks of 3 figures. So the first thing was balancing out the game all over again. As we'd launched new armies in there, they'd started being weaker armies and stronger armies, the Basileans, the angels flying. So it gave us a real opportunity to just go back and balance all that out. And actually, sometimes the best people to do that is not necessarily the game's developer himself. It's people that play the game week in, week out, 5 and 6 times every weekend, who have massive experience in exactly how you use this and how it's going to get used against you. So
was there a big community effort then involved in the rebalancing of the game?
Yeah, huge. Well, and we actually involved the community in, 3 ways, actually. The first was they helped us by doing a Kickstarter and paying for the book. And then actually, I think we asked for 50 grand and they gave us 400,000. So we also ended up spending that money on the new Abyssal army, which you've just been showing off. and a good start, a very good start, more than start, probably more than halfway through on the nature army. So that's where the community came through and helped out. Before we started it, we said, what are the areas that concern you? Some of which was a little bit of the balance. Some of it was making sure every troop type had a reason to be on the battlefield.
Yeah.
There was none of that. Some of it's points, but some of it's all cavalry was too good. This is, and then there was a few other niggles that had built up over time, or slightly unclear rules where the errata was here, there, and everywhere, and that all came out. So there was a real kind of survey done at the beginning where we got a lot of feedback that was gone through that we boiled down to a list, and then Alessio and the rules committee worked. Really very hard, and it's quite a delicate thing to do this because everyone has their own opinion, and at the end of the day we didn't want it to change the game, we wanted to improve it. 1.1, not a 2, but the rules committee were blinking hard with Alessio to just take every part out of the engine, polish it up and put it back in again in a better way, in a better configuration, and throughout, and then we launched that out as a kind of beta testing a couple of months back, and then there was a huge round of play testing, a lot of looking at it, and over the following 3 to 4 weeks every little unit was balanced up against other units, and although you can have it mathematically, really what's the flying worth? Is it 10 points or 8 points? In some cases with this combination it's lethal, and with this one it's not quite so good, so you have different points for skills, if they're flying. This. And so it's been a huge community effort, and I've always viewed Kings of War as a community's game. I think we're going to campaign later, which I think we'll talk about. It's going to be led by the community. They'll shape the map. We will make things happen.
Well, before we get to that, let's have a quick look at the Abyssals, Ronnie, because we have the new Abyssal army. I'm loving this artwork, by the way. It's just pure fire and brimstone, that. I'm going to kick off. I have a few units here to talk about. I'm hoping you can kind of tell me a bit about them. So the kind of lower dwarfs. Can you give me a flavour for what the whole Abyssal army is about?
Well, I think the art and these images are setting it up. We purposefully took it in an impish, devilish kind of way. It is that fire and brimstone. It's the kind of, because they live in the abyss, and the abyss is the open wound, straight to the kind of gates of hell type thing. It's not got the religious overtones. It's taking that as a trope and having some fun with it, and putting it in a fantasy setting. But it's that personification of old Nick, Mr. Mephistopheles. It's the archetypical devil and the imp, and these are just bad. They're just here to cause mayhem and mischief and fire fireballs at people, and generally get out there and be thoroughly bad guys, and I think that's what we're trying to capture. As you take it into the setting, you're going to want big bad guys with big hitty weapons, large infantry equivalents. You've got ranged attacks, and then you've got the she-devil, which I personally find quite sexy, which I've got to be careful of admitting in public, I guess. But
ooh, Ronnie. Army-wise, Ronnie, have you had a chance to play the Abyssals as an army, or watch it being played?
Seen it being played? I mean, these are hot off the press. I think you're getting world exclusive on all this stuff. We're having a big reveal week. They've been played quite a lot. They were written a couple of months ago, and they are just in play testing now. I think obviously the two new armies are the armies that are most play tested at this stage. We know the dwarves work, we know the elves work, we know artillery, cavalry, large infantry, monsters are all working. So you can now play against any of those armies, and we're looking for strengths and weaknesses in this one. Now,
there was always this nice dynamic within Kings of War that you were able to almost have a mix of armies, because the armies had this kind of a strong, an ally synergy type thing going on. So, anybody that if they decided to jump into the Abyssals, they're not just totally restricted to that. They have the opportunity to take that Abyssal army and mix and match it into something else, like the Abyssal Dwarfs or maybe another.
And you can see how they live along. So the idea is always, there's baddies, there's goodies, and there's people in between. And the alignment system is, if you're evil, you can align with other evil armies and neutral, because they could be paid mercenaries. They could just realise, I'm going to get wiped out to a man unless I actually sign up with this guy, so better throw my troops behind him than get annihilated. And because the whole idea of Kings of War is that across the world, while here's where the dwarfs are strong and this is the Basilean area, across it, it's just lots of kings and lords and princes, and you do well, you get to take the keep. Okay, now I raise an army, now I marry the guy's daughter next door, and our empires become one. But that's tens of thousands of people, and there's small little, it's a bit like the Holy Roman Empire in medieval, Europe. It's just a mishmash, and dwarfs live on this mountain over there. So needs change as events are happening. So good can ally. So the Basilean is a good stronghold, and I'm sure if there was, troops, kings and areas living out there, princes with their own fiefdoms, they would ally themselves with that strong power. Just as an abyssal dwarf fortress or stronghold, when the abyss comes bursting out, thinks, cool, fight, let's get going, let's sign up, let's fight alongside them. The ogres, you're going to pay us, or we're going to go out for a fight, they'll come along. They're neutral, go either side. So good with good, bad with bad, neutral with either.
Yeah. Now, we're talking about the second edition rules. When are they out, Ronnie? When can people start to get their hands on the second edition rules?
Fully printed editions are going to be hitting the retail shelves, local hobby stores in August. So it's currently in layout. Even during layout, we're still just balancing up final points values or stat charts, or just moving nerve 1 point here or there. But it's being laid out, art's being generated. It's going through that process. Actually, because it's a rule book, it's a relatively straightforward. Once we've finished printing it, we're going to be printing it in Europe, UK or Poland. We're not sure which yet, but we're getting it printed and delivered in. It's also going to be coming out in French, German and Spanish. So it's got 3 translations behind it, and going to be in stores in August. So we'll have some digitals before then. We'll have some free rules, so that just as we have always, if you want to get your mates into it or give it a whirl, it doesn't cost you the 25 quid price of the rule book to have a go. So if you've got an existing army, historical or fantasy army, you can download the rules and have a play.
Yeah, because this was something I was going to mention now. It's clearly the other big fantasy battle game. We're not quite certain at this stage what the future for that holds. It might go round base, it might go skirmish. We don't really know. So there may well be a lot of people out there with existing armies, Ronnie, that want to maybe give another big fantasy battle game a shot. What is there for them to help them with that kind of transition, to try that out? Obviously, you have the free rules, but what about army lists and things like that?
Well, there's always existed a fan kind of army lists out there. So every army there is, and I think a few that there aren't, people love going and finding old miniatures they've got lying around and writing army lists for them. So there is a big section out there of Kings of War army lists. I've even seen there's a great site out there that currently does 4 periods of history with individual army lists, with historicals, so all the different periods there. So one of the areas that we're looking at is to make it as accessible as possible. Is we're probably going to do a kind of tournament legal get you by non-canon army list book, which is where we'll take rat men and lizard men, and we'll add a few other things of our own, and we'll have some fun, and we'll look at other suppliers that are out there that are making lovely metal miniatures, and put 6, 8 army lists together in a book that if people just want to play the game and have some fun, but in a fair and balanced way, we'll have had Alessio and the rules committee sit down, look at it, and just write this out.
Also, it's not only just about getting them in to try it. You're giving them that step that if they want to go in and compete and get into join events and stuff like that, and they could bring what they have with them and just start getting stuck into the events, and it'd be in a fair and balanced way. Yeah,
and one of the big investments that any of us toy soldier guys make is the armies we build. It's a huge personal journey.
Especially in fantasy type mass battle armies. You know, they are like, how long have you been working on your dwarves now, Ronnie?
Yeah, it's almost getting legendary. I've got 3 units finished. 3 are finished. And yeah, I mean, comically, I started, and what's interesting, and just to talk on that journey, when we launched my dwarfs, I've always been a dwarf man. I got them out, I stuck them on 20mm bases, and I started painting them, single figure at a time. And over the last few years, I've realised my miniatures are never going to be played in any other game but Kings of War. You know, of course, not just for corporate reasons. I can remember the rules. It's easy. It's all in one place. But it's also, you know, I'm not going to play any other fantasy battle game. And so I got, in the end, I was embarrassed. So I actually got someone to paint an army for me. Luke in the UK, Luke Barker did a lovely abyssal dwarf army for me. And at that point, I realised, you know what? It's inconvenient putting each one of these figures on a single base, so individual base. So I just put them on a regiment base. So the 20 men, but they were all ranked up. There was exactly 20 of each abyssal dwarf on each unit. Had my army. Never actually quite played with it. It's been used a few times, but because you didn't paint it, you can't use it. Sits nice on the shelf. All of a sudden, I started getting the bug when Kings of War 2 came around. And King of War is one of my, you know, I really do love that fantasy battle game. For me, that's, you know, the pinnacle. I thought I'm gonna do my dwarves. A, it's a bit embarrassing, and B, I kind of want to. And because I'd already broken they're going to be used elsewhere, I'm going to put them on a regiment base. I thought, well, what the heck? I'm going to take these regiment bases and I'm going to put bark on them, and I'm going to put stones on them, and then I'm going to glue the miniatures on top of that, and then I'm going to spray it, and then I'm going to paint them. And
yeah, so almost like mini dioramas, Ronnie. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's 16 figures, I think, on my regiment. But it's very clear it's a 20-man regiment. And of course, I convinced myself at the time, because I'm spraying them and I'll just paint what I can see, it'll be easy. I'll do it really quickly, which didn't quite happen. But I've got further than I got when I was doing them individually. Yeah. They look great, and they've got a real character because the army is there. So actually, I'll try and hold this up. I think we can. You know, technology pushing to the now. It's not going to work, is it?
No, it's not going to work.
I've got, you know, this unit. I'm going to turn the brightness down. You know, I've got my dead blown up cannon here, but it's already glued on the base. Here's a better. There's the whole unit. It's all there. It's all on the base. You've got the bark on there. You've got the stone on there. Going to get sprayed, and it is easier to paint. It's a hell of a lot easier to pack up and tidy away at the end of the day. Yeah. You don't take individual casualties off. So you can just play the game. And when you're killing in the way that Kings of War is designed, the damage escalates. By turn 3, units start coming off. By turn 4, it's getting decisive, because that's how battles were fought, kind of in a historical context, when the army broke. And so it just makes it accessible. It makes it easy. It makes it, you know, clip couple of piece figures, 2 and 3, 4 piece figures. You glue them on the base, get them on the gaming table, you know, get some army painter on them, and you're up and running. So you can have 100, 150 figures, and it's not going to take forever, because you're not going to paint 150. You're going to paint 5 units.
Well, let's talk about another thing that's coming up, Ronnie. There's been some rumblings, and you've mentioned it yourself, about a worldwide campaign. I believe we even talked a bit about it on the Weekender recently, but Ronnie, what can you tell us about this campaign? Because it really does sound very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we all need, we're all dreamers. I mean, there's some of them that get organised and play regularly, but I think the rest of us all need a kind of something to work towards, some motivation, some meta reason to get our paints out and get going, particularly when you're going to do an army. I think I've got a Dead Zone, I've got a Dreadball team, I've got tons of little skirmish games from all over history and what have you. But building and painting an army takes a kind of concerted effort. It's always got to be on the painting table and coming out. And so during the Kickstarter, we're having conversations with the community out there. And they said, well, we always love those summer campaigns. We'd love to do something that was just had an impact on the IP, helped us shape it, move the storyline on a little bit. and let's be frank, we're not going to blow the world up. It's not going to be cataclysmic. It is simply, we will all play a game. It will act as an incentive for us to paint. Hopefully we'll get with you guys and we'll do terrain building, and we'll look at some of the great things that other companies are doing to energize ourselves and how the hobby can all happen. And over the time, we'll get an army painted and a small army painted, and you'll play some games. And when you've done your result, you go on and it'll say one for the goodies or one for the baddies, or the neutrals can pick which way they're going to put their points. And if the abyssals win, then there's going to be a new abyss that's going to open up. It's going to extend out into the map. And if the Basileans win, then actually that's going to become another stronghold of kind of goodness. And we'll move the timeline on. We will have stories updated every single week. We'll have a book that comes out that ties it all together with fun and funky things in it. And we'll just build a website. We'll run it for 3 or 6 months and just have a load of fun and use it as an opportunity to indulge our narrative compulsions to take part in something bigger than just a game tonight.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, Ronnie, when are we likely to start seeing that? Is that going to start rearing its head around the summertime, or? Yeah,
I think we'll discuss it end of the summer, and I think it'll be something we'll be doing through the end of the year and into early next year.
Yeah, great.
Over the summer, we've got to get the game out, get people trying it, playing it. We've got all the armies getting refreshed. We've got every single army's got a couple of new units and a couple of new figures coming for it. So they're getting freshened up. The packaging for the core army sets is getting changed into a standard format as well. Now it'll have the core units, and then you just add on the 3 or 4. Do I want cavalry, or do I want another cannon, or do I want this or that? So however you do it. But as always, it's going to be affordable. 50 quid will get you a good 30 to 50% of your army straight out the block. And then once that's started to subside, we'll use hopefully the crossover army lists and the campaign book to keep the energy levels high. We're going to have the abyssals coming out in October, so that looks to me like an ideal time to start running something. We've had time to build our soldiers, learn the rules, and run something over the next 3 months into the new year.
Well, now's a good time to say to our viewers, we're going to be giving away some prizes tonight. So we have a top prize and 2 runner-up prizes. If you want to be in with a chance of winning these prizes, all you have to do is come across to beasts-of-war.com and log into the chat window that's on the homepage. So come across to beasts-of-war.com, log into your account or create a free account, hop into the chat window. I see a load of people in there at the moment all chatting away. Black Spiral, Wilkinson, Okhan, Adith Bang, King, any of you guys might be in with a chance of winning something tonight. So if you've got questions for Ronnie, please post them in the chat window and I will put them to Ronnie as the show moves on. Our star prize tonight is a rule book and a 50 quid army, and our 2 runner-up prizes is a copy each of the rule book as and when it gets released. Now, Ronnie, Kings of War, the IP of the Kings of War universe is not only restricted to that mass battle game, you also had the hugely successful Kickstarter for the Dungeon Crawler. So I want to talk a little bit about Dungeon Saga, Ronnie. It's so Dungeon Saga.
You don't like dungeon crawlers much, do you?
Oh, you know I adore dungeon crawlers. It's Dungeon Saga. It's busted through tons of stretch goals on Kickstarters. Ronnie, it takes me right back to the first time we had met in person, I believe. You were over, we were having a fry-up on the North Coast, and I said to you, yeah, all this army stuff is great. When are you going to do the Dungeon Crawler? It is now just about to start hitting shelves. Firstly, Ronnie, I want to talk a little bit about the box. The box is just fabulous. What can you tell us about where the idea came from?
Well, it was sometimes Kickstarter's a bit maligned, and there's times when I think as a company, have overused it. simply that it becomes a crutch. You know, you leave nothing on the table for further down the line. You know, the fans weighed in, and unless you make a conscious and concerted effort to simply use it as a Kickstarter, you can end up becoming a little bit lazy. By that I mean I become lazy about making the retail product that's going to go on. So Dreadball, for example, hugely successful, very successful on Kickstarter, 5 times as successful back out in the retail. And categorically, Mantic is the long-term business that we want to create works with local hobby stores. Categorically, that's our business model. So, and when Dungeon Saga blew the roof off, and we had run out of, you know, they had cleaned out the cupboard. We had plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D was our final. You know, when you got the dragon, we had nothing else left. And we went through the $1 million mark, and they took everything we had up our sleeves out there. They'd given us this ringing endorsement that people wanted to see a real classic swords and sorcery dungeon crawler. And we got Jake and the guys working on the game. We went back and generated a new piece of art. And we did beautiful sculpts. I think Stuart and the sculpts have done an amazing job with the quality of the sculpts and the tools that have got them. And you've seen some of those, I think. Beautiful. We'll come on to that. But you know what? No matter how good I said it was, or you said it was, or any of us said it was, no matter how good the miniatures were, that's a given these days. When it's in a retail store, what's going to make people pick this up? What's going to make it stand out? And the two things that struck me. Firstly, yes, there isn't an actual classic dungeon crawler on the market at the moment. There's the anime version, there's the comedy versions, there's many different. There's some dark, like kind of horror versions of it, but there isn't a barbarian, an elf, a wizard walking along a thief art. So we're going to make that, but it still feels like quite a crowded space if it was just another. And what I realized was that because of the support we'd got with 6,000 people backing us, I could go to our printers and say, come on, I've got a print run here. I want to do something special for 2 reasons. I want to say thank you to those that jumped in, you know, unseen. We trust you. Please go and make it. I don't want to say, I hope I've made it, but actually, can I go the extra mile? And as you can imagine, this was a lot more expensive than a Lydon base, you know. Yeah. And they didn't back us thinking they were going to get a better box. They thought they were going to get a Lydon base. And the second was, when this came out of retail, I wanted people to pick it up and go, oh my goodness, that looks fantastic. And if packaging makes you pick it up, then it's done its job. And because I had that support, I could go and say, and I literally was sat there with a white box, you know, the ones that open at the top and you put your products in, which is like a mail order box. It was a white one. And I said, and I just turned it on its side, and I said, this looks like a book. Mm-hmm. We could make the box look like a book. And everyone looked at me for about 5 minutes while I was kind of starting to froth at the mouth. And
in typical Renton fashion, really.
Jazz hands, as Palmer would call it. I said, no, it's a book. And they're like, you're a lunatic. No, I know what you're saying. I said, 6,000 print. We can do 6,000 print. Tell the Chinese I want a book. What are you talking about? I said, I want it to look like a book. It's a dungeon saga. The whole thing is a narrative campaign. The guys get tougher as they go through. There's a baddie or the goodies. Come on, you know. Who's going to win? It's a fight of good and evil. It's got to be a book. Anyway, after about 3 days, someone came back in and said, you mean a book? A book? Yeah. Here we go. Much toing and froing, much hard work. We've ordered an extra few hundred copies for the damaged ones that are probably going to happen because he's not quite as strong. We've got cardboard corners around it. We've got a sleeve over the top of it so that your book doesn't have a barcode on. It doesn't have any, you know, sales blurb. The sales blurb is all on that lovely looking sleeve that they've done.
So the when book you take that just book, looks like a book.
Like a leather book.
Please tell me that future expansions are going to be books which expand the collection of this.
Well, Warren, the accountant spoke to me, and basically this box is twice as expensive as all the other boxes. And this was kind of as a special start off, and we had 6,000 as a print run. So I bullied the accountant into doing this. He then explained to me why it was going to cost us, because for each Kickstarter backer, we've just basically, but it's another £3 each person, and they didn't want it. They could just have a normal box. I said, look, shut up. It's brilliant. They've been fantastic to us. So yes, it's going to cost us a lot of money, but shut up, we're doing it. And then he started saying, well, yeah, but you can't do it on the expansions. It's impossible. It's not fair. I need my accountancy money and blah, blah, blah. And I listened to that, and I had to balance it out. And then I said, yeah, but I don't care. We're doing them all as books.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk about the contents of the box, Ronnie. What are people going to find when they open this book up?
You can see the obvious things they're going to find. You've got your 4 heroes at the front. You've got their character cards next to them. You've got beautiful thick tiles, and they're nice thick tiles. You've got event cards. You've got your dice and your rule books and all your baddies. And actually on this picture, there's also furniture. There's also doors. So you've got a fully interactive gaming area. It's not a flat board with card on it. The tiles are the tiles. Every piece of furniture you come across, be it a treasure chest, be it a bookcase, be it a door, be it a table, you get that. It's a war game, if you like, the war game version, not the board game version. A quest pack, which is the story, starting from when the barbarian and the dwarf go in, and how they meet up with the elf and the wizard, and I'll come back in a second. And that escalates all the way through to meeting the big baddie, and a rule book that tells you the rules. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've done, and it's not in this picture, but we spent a lot of time, is we gave the rule book and the quest book to a guy who'd never played, who was a professional rater, worked for 20 years in the board game industry. And I said, I want a quick start guide. I want you to help people navigate the journey from opening this box to having played the first couple of games. And because I've now got kids and I want to sit down and play with them, if someone says there's a 24-page rule book, you've got to read it and understand it and go through it.
Yep.
If you've got the kids there talking, it doesn't happen. And so even though the miniatures are one, you just pop them out and play. And even though the doors and the furniture are all there, that first hour of a board game, I think, is critical to realistically how many people you can expect to do it. And you and I would do it because we've been doing it all our life, and it becomes a little bit intuitive, and we do it for a day job as well. But even if we didn't, we'd do it. But if someone else picks this product,
it doesn't stop some board games being nigh on impenetrable these days, though, Ronnie. Yeah.
Well, I think we've done it with a couple of our games where they're great games, but the bloody journey from opening the box to playing it is too long and too far.
Mm-hmm.
I was determined that wasn't going to happen with this. Determined. And I said, no, we're going to absolutely make this that you can sit there and play it. Just because we've been doing this 20 years of our life. That's not this. I want it to be the next generation of Hero Quest. I want it to be on shelves in, every toy shop up and down the country. And so the Getting Started Guide was written by a guy who just sat there and said, right, you're going to see this map on page 1 of the quest book. You've got and we wrote the scenario, so you've got the barbarian and the dwarf. So you learn to move and fight. Mm-hmm. And in the past, we would have just said, there you go, set it up and play it. This book says, what you're going to learn here is this. Let me take you through a move.
Yeah.
Can you see that number on their cards? If you bring the other picture up, if you bring up the content, it'll say, hey, can you see that hero card there? So you can see the top one is the elf.
Yep.
On the left-hand one, there's a picture of a boot, and it has a number in it. And it'll say in the guide, that's their movement stat. That's how many squares they move.
Yeah.
Do this with them. To find the full rules for movement, there's a few modifiers and what's front and back, page 6 to page 9. But right now, move them up to this guy. Right, now you're going to hit them. Look at the next thing. The number is how many dice you roll.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you compare against. This is what they're going to do. And this is the outcome.
Yeah.
And it just talks them through the scenario like someone standing there next to you doing it. Alongside this, I'd love to have a video, you know, where people can do the same thing. You know, we've done some of those with the Academy series where it just demystifies it.
Yeah.
But we can't rely on everybody finding the websites and finding those other things. So let's put it in there and help them through it. And the second scenario is the elf and the wizard, which is where you now learn shooting, magic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm running away as well, actually, because otherwise your wizard will die.
And what about things like is there an AI deck in the actual the core game, or is that a later expansion, or what are the options for playing the game?
Well, the options are in this base game. It's player versus players, and so you always have to have someone playing the undead in this version of the game, and that's because the way these quests are built, there's surprises and you've got to set it up, and as you bash the door, you set the next piece up. You can then play basically the first two adventures, which is half the party each, is geared up to train you how to play. And a veteran gamer will play through it in just 5 minutes. Okay, got that. The third scenario, which is when they are on the same map but on the other side of the building, they meet up and then they go into the end room, is a really great scenario. It's really good fun. There's all manner of ways when you're a novice you can screw it up, and the undead can win. But it's built that you really should do it as the heroes, and it'll be a great one for dads to play with kids, or for the first time at club night. Quick play through the other two, and then this one. After that point, the scenarios escalate quite quickly, and they're fairly serious. If you make a load of silly errors as the adventurers, one of your heroes will get crippled and you will have to go back and start again. And we've played it a bit like a computer game where you don't die, you just respawn back at the beginning. And the idea is you've got to play through the rest of the campaign in a certain number of attempts to win the meta game. So it does put that pressure on there. Similarly, because they're all balanced, if there's you and 4 mates and you want to play scenario 5, get on and play it. So the escalation there, it kind of kicks in and comes up. Remember the question again?
What are the different play options, Ronnie?
Right.
Is there like I believe the Kickstarter unlocked an AI deck and stuff as well. You know, is there a solo option or?
Yeah. So what you've got is in this game, it's the base PvP, and you can play 1 undead versus 1 player, or up to 4, having 1 adventurer each.
Yeah.
So you've got 1 versus up to 4. And as the scenarios get tougher, so the heroes get tougher. So they become more interesting to play. And they can do more things. There's an accompanying product called the Adventurer's Companion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what all of us do is, as soon as we've finished hearing about Dungeon Saga, we go, that's brilliant. Can I generate my own characters?
Yeah.
Can I do my own
monsters? And
can I use all my figures in the Kings of War range? Can I use all my models I've ever built? Can I build my own dungeons? Can I play AI? The answer is yes. All of it is yes, but that project is just as big as the base game.
Yeah.
So in Kickstarter, we actually originally envisaged a kind of box that looked like a treasure chest, and all my stuff, the Dungeon Saga stuff, on the top, and then a line that said, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here."
Mm-hmm.
Put that away, and underneath it was all that depravity that we've just talked about, rolling our own characters, rolling our own adventures and everything else. Actually, it made a lot more sense to just split it into 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're loving the quest pack, you might stop there. You might like that, but want to just play more narrative campaigns. So you'll buy the Valandor expansion, which is where these same heroes carry on with another adventure. So they're already at level 10 and they go on to level 15. But you may want to start building your own, playing AI, playing in many different ways, in which case Adventurous Companion is the way that you can step across and do all that.
I want to talk a little bit about the minis that are in the game. So I have had a look at them, Ronnie, and some of the detail on these is fabulous. Everybody will be wanting to know what material it is, because that just seems to be the scream on Kickstarter these days. Which variety of plastic is it this time?
Well, we did it at the opening at the weekend. We have not done a restic model for about 5 Kickstarters.
Yeah.
We're only working in 3 materials: hard plastic, which you'll use for Kings of War, Warpath, a lot of the Dead Zone stuff, all of our sceneries in it, exactly the same as they've always bought. Metal and or resin for bespoke pieces that go on it. And then this stuff. I'm working with we're working with Dust Studios on the tooling. It's beautiful quality. We've got it as hard as we possibly can be while it's still a soft plastic.
Yeah.
And it's,
now, is this stuff similar to what you used in the Mars Attacks miniatures? Yes.
We learned a lot about what we can sculpt and what we can get away with that. And I think they were great. And they were all assembled and coloured.
I have an entire team in here, just 2 doors down, priming and painting and washing Mars Attacks for a 1944 Martian invasion taking place this Sunday at a boot camp. And we have been loving the Mars Attack stuff, Ronnie. I have a fleet of flying saucers that would make the Grand Martian Marshal himself quiver with fear. There's some serious going to be taking place. So,
and it's easy, a joy. And as soon as you realise, listen, yeah, okay, it's not going to win your Golden Demon, but jeepers, I can have 6 flying saucers, 3 big stompy robots, and 100 figures painted in an evening, because I'm not going to have to assemble them. I'm not going to have to glue the buggers together.
Yeah.
The space is what? 3. Two clips and a couple of weapons underneath, dome on top, brilliant. Big stompy robot. So, and this stuff is just great. We pushed the envelope with it, but the undead are in there. They're beautiful. They will happily go in your Kings of War army as heroes. You've got zombie trolls. That's a new entry in the Kings of War army list. Because they're all set in Mantica, because we only work in 2 universes, everything we do is cross-compatible. You know, you want some new zombie figures, there they are. You want some new revenants in your revenant force, there's a dwarf revenant. You want to build a regiment of dwarven undead, there you go. If you want to build some skeleton archers, there you go. They'll easily come off these bases and go on a regiment base or 20mm bases. So that skeleton can be a hero. So it's just beautiful. You can crisscross their miniature level war figures, but board gamers can get on with them.
Yeah, Ronnie, these bases, will the bases be available separately for those of us that have monsters and things like that we'd like to bring into Dungeon Saga, and have it all kind of look the part, basically?
They will now, because you've just given us an idea for another product, because we've got it made. So yes, great idea.
Always glad to be of service, Mr. Renton.
As soon as you fantastic. Yeah, of course, why not? Okay, make a note.
Yes, we want those bases, and don't be afraid to make bigger ones at some point, Ronnie, that we can stick some really big beasties on. So.
Yeah, good idea. Dungeon Saga bases available separately. There you go. You say it there, and it shall be done.
Now, furniture-wise, Ronnie, is there a pack of furniture in the base game? I've seen some furniture. I've seen bookcases and thrones and things like that. It looked fabulous. Is that all coming in the core game? Yep.
We had that real dilemma and saying, well, it should be carved, and then it's an upgrade pack. No, it's in the game. It's a fully 3D interactive environment. The tiles are the floor.
Yeah.
Everything other than the walls and the roof, what you see is what you get.
And what about doors, Ronnie? Did doors make it into the base game?
Yep. Yeah, they're in, and they look great. And there's a little token next to them to say how tough they are, because you have to use the same ones, but the singles and doubles. There is magical doors. There's other ones that you have to hit, and it just says, how many dice it has back, because it's a contested roll. So it could roll 3 6s, and then you can't smash it down, and how many you need to smash it down. So usually it'll take a couple of bashes before you break through. So that's when the skeletons are piling in. So you're like, do I fight them or do I hit it? The clock's running down. So you create this sense of suspense. But no, everything is included. It's all interactive. You see a treasure chest on the map, there's going to be a treasure chest in the box and on your game.
Okay. I'm going to go on a rant here, but I want people to know just how fundamental this is. You know, I'm a gamer. I grew up with dungeon crawlers and things like that. You know, this for me is the perfect balance. This is the only game that came close to this was Hero Quest, where you had that 2.5D dungeon. You know, another big one was Warhammer Quest. Warhammer Quest, in many ways, was 100 times better than Hero Quest, but it didn't have the furniture. And even the furniture in Hero Quest was that little card stuff that all gradually melted and fell apart. This 2.5D dungeon experience, if you've got kids, I have a little girl, and my little boy is now starting to get on. I cannot wait to take my kids through this, because I remember only too well as a young teenager, 11, 12 years old, sitting down, looking at this dungeon with all the furniture and stuff like that. I was there. I have never experienced that with pretty much any board game since, and I've played, you know, the likes of Descent and stuff like that, and yes, the monsters and all are very cool, but do not underestimate the power of that 2.5D dungeon. Having that furniture, having those doors, it just sucks you right in. I'm excited, Ronnie.
Thank you. I am too. It's old school and it's lovely, and it's new school too, because we've used modern technology, we've used wonderful graphic design and graphic designers to do something, and the support we got has made it possible. And I'm really hoping that this is under people's Christmas trees this year. And the Kickstarter is just that, the start. We've got loads of great products coming out on the back of it, the expansions, we've got the Dungeon Adventurous Companion, so you can go deeper with it, use all your models. It gives you a great character narrative campaign into the Mantica universe. You know, it tells you there's mass battles, and it could set up the skirmish version that could come out. And so no, it's been a real labour of love. And I've had a load of emails since we started doing the unveils, and you know, we're trying to keep the Kickstarter backers happy as well by giving them stories as well. But we occasionally want to, you know, share what we've been doing. We're coming out of that period where it's simply been being worked on. You know, you can't show 80% it looks crap. We started showing the art off. Everybody's done a phenomenal job. They've worked very hard, and I think over the next 3 months, I hope it's going to be fever pitch. I want everybody out there and dressed up and playing the game and having an absolute hoot. And, you know,
when can we expect it? When will Dungeon Saga start hitting store shelves? And I need to be put down for a couple of copies at least. Yeah, I want massive dungeons.
I'm sure we can sort one out for you. Yes, it's September launch. We've started quite early on this because we've placed an order, I think, today for 18,000 copies, which is 50% bigger than our last biggest number. But I think they might all be sold in about 8 weeks.
Yeah.
In which case we can then place another order, and we won't have any out of stock situation for too long. Whereas if I start telling people about this when it's about to arrive, and it then really does take off, it's then 3 months before I have any more. So I think we're getting the information out to all of the local hobby stores. It's going to go up on our online store with a little incentive, you know, a limited edition mortar-briss for jumping in early. But if we can sell through that first print run and start and place the next, then let's get on with it and do it. And it really does have that beautiful touch and feel. So those that jump in early get a little treat, which frees us up to get back and make sure that we can try and keep it in stock. Which, listen, if we sell 18,000, wow, unbelievable. But at the same time, that little spidey sense and the enthusiasm that it's being met with says this might just be a bit of a monster.
Yeah. Well, Ronnie, me and you haven't discussed this, but I'm going to throw this out to the viewers that are watching. If I manage to twist Ronnie's arm and we run for a Halloween October Dungeon Saga boot camp, if any of you guys out there that are watching might be interested in coming along to a late October Halloween kind of Dungeon Saga extraordinaire, drop me a PM over on beastsofwar.com or create a forum post over there, and a lot of you can go in and say, I'm in. If we get enough interest in something like that, what do you say, Ronnie? Could we encourage you guys to come across and do that with us?
It'd be our pleasure. We'd love to do that. It'd be great fun. And,
Right, guys, there you have it. If we have enough of you that are interested, we will make that happen, and that can be our Halloween event. Ronnie, there's just a ton of stuff happening, mate. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
thank you.
We've got to pick some winners.
Right.
Okay, we're going to be giving away some Kings of War goodies tonight. Now, these are the 2.0 rule books that you'll be getting, and the grand prize winner is going to get a 50 quid army as well. So the three names that I have randomly picked from the Beasts of War chat room are, I could do with a drum roll right now. Runner-up is BN42. Congratulations, mate. Come on over to beast4.com and click the Claim Your Prize button. Our second runner-up is Fenrisen. You are also a winner, so again, come across and claim your prize. And our grand prize winner, who gets the rulebook and a 50 quid army of your choice, is Cadmon. Well done, guys. And Ronnie, thank you so much for putting up some cool prizes for the community. It's always very, very much appreciated. I know these guys love your stuff, and they, it's been lovely having you on tonight. Now, Ronnie, we are going to call it an evening at that. Okay. As we start to get more images of Dungeon Saga and everything else, stay tuned to beastofwar.com, because we'll be bringing you the latest and greatest on all of that. And no doubt, Ronnie, it'll not be too long before we get you back on the show again to talk about some other stuff.
Can I plug Reveal Week?
Yes, go for it.
Well, so all this week we're doing a little bit of an overview for each of the game systems. They're having a day each, just to kind of start the ball rolling. So we had Dungeon Saga on Monday on our blog. We have the Abyssal Armies today, and there's some Dreadball. Just a little bit of an overview, because there's some big communities out there, and then each one of them is going to get their own week where we go in depth. So at the beginning of June, we're going to talk about Kings of War. At the end of June, we're going to talk about Dungeon Saga in real depth. Take every piece apart and show it off, and look at it and look at what's happening to it. And I think you've been getting some of the reveals as well. All I can say is look out on Friday. There might be something jolly exciting, and I think Beasts of War are going to have it first. So,
oh, happy days. Can I also just remind all of our backstagers that on Friday we're going to be giving away the Warpath 2.0 Alpha rules. So if you're a backstager, you get the opportunity to jump in first. You're going to have 3 weeks to get in and get this game tested, see what your thoughts of it are, and we're going to be doing a live hangout with some of the rules team behind that, so you can provide feedback and we can learn a bit more about the game. If you're not a backstager, now might be the time to come across and try that. Ronnie, it's been a pleasure, mate, and thank you to all our viewers for tuning in tonight. You have been watching Midweek Live. It's been a hangout with Ronnie Renton. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Ron.